we've had a great response to this webinar. So hopefully we've touched on a subject which is dear to all your hearts, and we've badged it as top tips for kickstarting your temp desk. Okay, joined as usual by my colleague Rich Beresford, who we make up the sales team here at Giant Finance. And you've also got Richard Foster, that's our sales and client director. So basically, he's the guy that actually delivers everything which we go out and sign up, etc., and is responsible for sorting things out and basically sweeps up behind us. Fair comment, Rich?
Yes, less said the better, I guess, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so effectively, we go out and win new business. Rich looks after it all. So he's really in tune with all the people who come on board with us. Okay, so it's our first time back since a bit of a break for summer. September, if you've been watching the news, there's been quite a few, early October, quite a few things going on, including things we've got going on within Giant ourselves. So probably a little bit later than what we wanted. But as I say, we're going to talk today just for a brief 10 minutes, hopefully give you some tips and stuff for kickstarting your temp desk. So Rich, okay, Rich B, we put together about what questions that we need to ask. How do you start off?
Yeah, cheers, Mike. Yeah, hello everybody. Richard, thanks for joining us. As Mike touched on, you're involved in almost every part of bringing new businesses on, and as such, you speak to a lot of recruitment agencies in your day to day. I imagine you speak to a lot of permanent recruitment agencies coming to you to talk about looking at temporary recruitment and what that involves and what the benefits are of setting up a temporary desk within their existing permanent recruitment agency.
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. Most agencies actually start as a perm-only functional perm-only desk. And I think I read a stat this week, 75% of all new recruitment startups remain perm-only. So it clearly isn't something that's for everybody setting up a temp desk. But there are a number of benefits that I'll try and touch on now. I know we've got a lot to cover today, so please stop me if I'm going on too long. It's quite an emotive subject. I'm quite interested in it. There's a few things. So one thing that a temp desk can give you as an agency is regular sustainable income. So whereas a perm, you work on it for a long time, you may do one or a couple of months. If you get a good supply of contractors, it gives you maybe 20 workers a week, and it's that income every week. So sustainable income is a key factor. Placing a temporary contract can also lead to additional perm opportunities. So you may be asked by one of your perm agencies, do you have any contracts? It's got a small role. If you don't fill it, somebody else will, and then they've got a foot in the door, an opportunity for the perm. So you're allowing the competition in. So great to have that opportunity to place candidates. Current climate, as we all find ourselves, Mike touched on it. It's trying times at the moment from an economy perspective. Businesses are more inclined to take on temporary staff as opposed to perms. They're not committing to larger overheads. And then they can make a decision and see how things go. So having that temp desk again, if your perms drops, you've got the temps there. So finally, even final point here, it makes you more resilient as a business. If the perms drops, the temps are there. And also then if you're looking down the line to sell the business or looking for investment, it makes you a more attractive proposition if you've got that desk there, that temp desk can continue that income.
Yeah, I think that regular income point that you made is crucial, isn't it? Because in the current climate, you want to make sure that you've got that turnover coming through. Permanent recruitment, they're few and far between at times. You may wait Absolutely. Months before your next payday. So having that regular weekly income that you can forecast and bank on, vitally important, I think.
Yeah.
And one of the main
the thing that I make as point as well is not only your competition are getting in there, but if you want to stay on good customers' PSL, so their preferred supplier lists, if you can do temp and perm, you stand a much better chance of retaining your customers, right? Or sometimes it's the only way you can actually get into a business. Say, look, I'm not a one-stop shop. I can do everything and supply all your needs. And I think we're seeing a lot more of that out in the marketplace. And I'm really getting inquiries where people are saying they've got to do that to keep in with their major customers. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? It surprises me, Rich, that you said 75% of permanent agencies stay that way, because it seems to me they're missing out on a huge potential revenue stream. They could speak to those clients and go and sort of, they have the infrastructure to do the recruitment side. They can speak to people like us we'll come on to that, to sort of pick up the bits and bobs that go along with temp recruitment. But they've got that potential opportunity that they're just not tapping into. So yeah,
that feeds nicely into the next question, Rich. I think.
What it does, yeah, and that is exactly that. What are those differences between permanent recruitment and temporary recruitment? Because they're obviously in the same wheelhouse, but they're very different beasts, aren't they? And you do need to know what you're doing between the difference between one and the other.
That's it. I mean, there are a lot. I've tried to sort of reduce this and condense this down. I mean, the key attributes are obviously still winning clients and sourcing candidates. That remains at the forefront, but there's other things that you need to consider. I think the biggest thing is speed. So you're placing a perm candidate, you've gone through 50 CVs, you've mixed them down to the last 5. They're all suitable for the role, meet the requirements of your client. You present those to the client in whatever way, and then there might be a 3-month or a month period going through that, placing them. With temporary recruitment, you might get a call on a Friday and you place a guy on the Saturday, or whoever it may be, the lady on the Saturday. Speed is so important, but it doesn't mean you can do a job of just filling the role. So it's not just bums in seats, as temp's been referred to as before, probably by perm agencies that don't do it. It's important that you find the right candidate for the right role. So obviously speed is absolutely important. Thinking fast and moving fast as a talent recruiter. The talent pool's important. So clearly, again, in perm, you're looking at certain candidates. You need a much bigger talent pool because you want to have a lot more workers out and you want to have consistency of workers. So it's really important that you've got workers that you can trust, but also trust you, and there's some loyalty amongst that. You need that too, where they need to want to work for you and you want to place somebody that reputation is going to be good for you and your client as well. And on that point is the repeat placements. So the cost is really when you source a candidate in the first place, doing the screening, getting them set up on your system. If you can maximize the utilization of that candidate in their second placement, whatever, is when you start making money on them. So really you want somebody that is going to be someone that works for you for, not a 12-week period, but maybe a year, 6 months to a year, which would be fantastic. You've got to attract that client, screen them, get them job ready, and your profits can be eaten up at the start, but you get the right feedback, you get them placed, and they could be a lifelong candidate for you. The other thing, which is a bit of a negative, is the amount of administration that's involved. Clearly, we'll touch on that in questions to come, but you need to be involved more on a day-to-day with that candidate. You've got to know they've turned up for the job. You've got to know they're happy. You've got to know they're going to go back in next week. So it's the feedback around that. And then also, you've got to pay them. So how do you get the time? How do you process that time, etc.? How do you calculate your margin? It's not just your flat 20% that you've been charging, or more if you're lucky. You've got to take into account national insurance, pension, apprenticeship levy. All those things that aren't of an issue with perm suddenly become part of your day-to-day.
You almost have to be a jack of all trades, don't you? And you have to have such a much wider breadth of knowledge about various things like payroll and legislation to do the temp side, which is why it's important to speak to have a good sort of bank of experts, if you like, to help out.
And on that subject, Rich, is the saying, it links back into, most people stay at perms. I think a lot puts a lot of people off is because they can't fund it.
Yeah.
We're specialist, finance recruitment funder. Okay. Why should people speak to us?
Well, I mean, the big one is clearly your increased costs, I think. So, and it is what I think puts off most people. Some people still don't know that finance companies exist for recruitment, but as you say, we're specialist recruitment only in recruitment. But if you think you're placing a candidate, if you're invoicing £10,000 in a week, £8,000 of that is likely to be for payroll costs that you need to pay out immediately. So if your client is on 30 days payment terms, using rough figures, you've got 6 to 8 weeks of putting that money out the door. So around £70,000 on that one contract you need to find and pay before you're going to get your money back. Not many people have that ready access to that sort of money. And then you're not allowing for delays in payment, them asking for another contractor, and then you can double your income, but you need more money out. So finance is clearly the biggest thing and the biggest driver for people using back office providers. As we just touched on as well, you've then got to process the payroll. So, right, place the worker, brilliant. I've got to pay them now. And how do I pay them? So are they PAYE? Are you employing them directly? They're umbrella, limited company, PEO? You've got to think about IR35, etc., which we'll touch on. So making sure that you can process. So you need an online timesheet system, ideally, to make it easier. You've then got your returns, etc., that you need to do with HMRC. So if you align yourself with a good back office provider, they will make sure these things are covered for you, and it's a second thought for you. The P32s are done each week. The pensions managed for you. The remittances going over to your umbrella providers is done. So you can just concentrate on placing the candidates and winning your clients. And the final point, which is probably more relevant than ever at the moment, is around credit insurance. So again, with a good finance facility, and I know you guys might touch on Giant Finance Plus, include credit insurance or bad debt protection. Another stat for you, which is not a very nice one, but with England and Wales, insolvencies have increased by 42% since the pandemic. So
wow.
We're experiencing it at the moment in certain sectors, and it's going to continue, unfortunately, well into 2023. So credit insurance is so important. With a perm, you do all the work and then they go bust. You don't get paid. With a temp, the same thing, but you've already put out 80% for candidate pay that you're not going to get back. So it's really important that you align yourself with a partner that's going to give you the right advice around which companies to trade with and how to approach your risk with clients.
That's a great summary, Rich. Thanks. Because yeah, I mean, as I say, I mean, I think a lot of people don't do temp because they don't know how to do it. We can help out with the expertise. They can't fund it. We can help out and we can protect the business. All sounds fantastic, and like I always do my lectures, etc. Well, how much does that cost then? Give us an idea of costs.
So, not as much as, well, I know you guys know, but as much as you may think as a view of the webinar. The way most back office finance companies work is to charge a service fee against your gross invoicing. So your weekly throughput, basically. That's how we work. So you know your costs at a given time. Looking at a sort of average recruitment business, so say for £1 million turnover company, for 100% finance, credit insurance, online timesheet system, invoice and payroll, administration, the cost would be the equivalent of you employing a full-time administrator in the office. So for that one person that you have to worry about maternity, paternity, sickness, holidays, etc., you're getting all of that thrown in. And it's a pay when you use facility. So if you don't pay anything through in a week, if you're an education agency, for example, you don't get charged in that week. So it's a kind of no-brainer from that perspective. And given the expertise and additional support you get, it's definitely something that I would advise.
Yeah. I was going to touch on that. You're not only getting the service, you're getting our expertise, aren't you? You know, we only work with recruitment agencies. We only fund recruitment agencies. So we've got, you know, many years of experience working with the sectors that you work with, you know, as in the recruitment agencies themselves. So you're tapping into that expertise. You know, like you say, it's a no-brainer. You touched on it earlier, Rich. In terms of the differences between perm and temp recruitment, where do agencies need to look at from a compliance point of view, from a legislation point of view? What sort of differences are there around that? Because, you know, there are lots of things to keep on top of, aren't there?
Yeah, and undoubtedly there's more than when you're placing a perm candidate. You need to worry about your contracts with your end clients from that perspective. But with a temp, you know, there's so much more involved. And I think, excuse me, there's certainly for new starts who are just setting up, there's a tendency to worry about these things later. So we'll talk compliance down the line when we're making money, but you never do that because you become so busy with the day-to-day, you don't have time to go back. So it's important you get these things done up front.
Yeah.
It's not a bureaucratic tick box exercise. Improving compliance, it's a massive sales advantage. We've seen end clients they want to see transparency in the supply chain. They want to know that their provider is you know, thinking about the risk and compliance so that they don't have to worry about it. If they know you can place the candidates and meet all of those needs, you know, why do they look elsewhere? So it is really important you get that right for the business. It will separate you from the opposition. It will save you from fines, tribunals, HMRC investigations, and also just prevent a lot of hassle with your consultants because they will know how things work from the off. They won't have to then go and change a process that's worked for ages that wasn't compliant. So there's a few things. You've got to make sure you submit your P32s, your RTIs, quarterly intermediary reports, your CIS returns.
A lot of acronyms.
And it goes on,
around, aren't there? Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of acronyms. We can explain if anyone's got any questions after this. But these things will be managed by Giant or another back office provider usually for you. So again, you concentrate on the day-to-day. You've got to ensure you've got your contracts in place not just with your own clients now, but they need to make sure they're up to date and signed for credit insurance perspectives, but also with your candidates. So it may be that you're directly employing those candidates, so you need contracts of employment, or if you're engaged in umbrella or limited company contracts for services with them, are they on the right model? So are they being paid as a POE through an umbrella, PEO? Are they inside IR35? You need to align yourself with the correct umbrella partner for this. We'd always say use FCSA members, Giant Umbrella, obviously part of that. There's others as well out there. You are part of that supply chain and will be responsible if your umbrella doesn't pay holiday pay or isn't paying the minimum wage because of how they calculate the pay rate and the margin. And they'll disappear and you'll be liable as a business. So all the hard work and money you've made up front will suddenly disappear. It's really important that you align yourself with the right partners, be that back office or umbrella.
Yeah. And it's hard enough to keep up with changes in legislation when you're experts. You know, we've seen the offshore payroll legislation recently has been chopping and changing with a lot of decisions being made on the mini budget. So it's crucial, I think, to align yourself with a sort of reputable partner, someone who knows the landscape and who can advise you accordingly.
I think that you just touched on there. I mean, we've had 5 chancellors in 5 months or something, so things change quickly.
Yeah,
you need to stay in touch and be changing along with that. And again, someone like Giant, we're on that immediately. So we'd already looked at reverting back to the old IR35 situation. Now we've gone back again. Will it change again? Who knows? But we're ahead of the game on that. Compliance is key, and we can support you guys.
Yeah,
I think we've just touched on an important thing there about, you know, what you should look out for when you're speaking to finance companies. And, you know, what we try to demonstrate there is we're a finance company, but we give you a lot more as well because we're specialist recruitment. And that'll be my one key message to everyone. Say, look, you know, don't just look at the cheapest option, look at the people you can have a relationship and can add value to your business, okay? Because that's really, really important.
Yeah.
So guys, thanks for your input. I think we've covered a lot of ground there, conscious on time. The message to everybody listening in is, look, you know, hopefully this has sparked some enthusiasm if you're nervous about going into the temp market. Pick up the phone and we're always available to have a chat through to see how we can help out. Okay, now we've got lots of people where we've got documented they're about ready to start, and it takes them a few months to start. So we're well versed with actually helping people get into this marketplace and then making a full success of it. So thank you very much for dialing in. Any questions you've got, please get in contact and give us a shout. You'll have the email addresses, etc. Yeah, and hopefully we can help you out, get moving forwards. Excellent. Yeah. Thanks a lot for dialing in. Rich, thank you very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Rich.
Good to see you guys.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.